Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. Do you know what's worse than no internet? Bad internet.
Yeah. I know what you're saying, and it's funny how reliant we are. How reliant we are on internet at the moment as well, and how we are so very dependent on everything around it. And power cuts in Dunedin last week with that weather, and because I was messaging you, I've been thinking about buying one of those big rechargeable power stations. They're $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever. And you said to me, why don't you just get and I've already forgotten it. What's it called?
Oh, a vehicle to load adapter, but
a vehicle car to load. Did you say it doesn't, or if it doesn't?
It doesn't. It doesn't work for your car. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you said it kind of worked with every car. You bastard! You got all my hopes up about this.
You've been misled. You've just got a big useless battery on four wheels that won't help you run an air fryer and a power cut.
I was thinking that this was the picture. I was going to be able to plug it into my car, run an extension cable upstairs, have a multi-box up there and go fridge, TV. Because I'm assuming, like, we're on fibre here. Fibre's not dependent on power, but the box on the wall is and the router is. So if you can power it with something, then you can have internet even in a power cut. Am I correct in thinking that? The actual fibre coming into the house won't require power?
Yeah, you could, my wife's car can do it. So we're going to buy that adapter. So
shut up.
If we decide to go camping, I can take my 65-inch TV and my PlayStation and use it next to a lake, as God intended.
Okay, so if we're going to play this game about who's got the power, let me ask you this question. How are the solar panels going, buddy?
They haven't been turned on yet. And every time it's a sunny day, I scream at the sun and I go, no, it's being wasted. It's just all of this glorious photons are just spilling on the floor and on plants. It's been wasted on making plants grow. Disgusting.
We've had a couple of technical issues the last couple of days. Whānau. My audio should be fixed. I spent a bit of time on it this afternoon. People are saying, Chewy, that you're a bit low. Speak to me now. I'm going to look at your levels.
Check. 1, 2.
Keep going.
Mic check. 1, 2. 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I think that was what happened to me yesterday. Something changed, but I'm just going to put us both up a little bit, and then we'll end up distorting everybody's ears, and then they'll hate us forever. Thank you, chat. Well, we'll see what happens. Hopefully we're okay now. I don't know what's going on. Look, this is a news story, but we haven't really done much with it. The actual internet outage at the moment, because I've heard about it in the news today. Tell me about it. What's going on with the internet at the moment?
So there's been a couple of things that have happened in the last week, and you can connect the dots between these if you want. A lot of internet services run through Amazon, and then the rest of them run through Microsoft. Amazon went down last week, took out a whole bunch of websites, and now it's Microsoft's turn. So yeah, it depends on who's hosting that part of the internet that you're using. So this morning, Air New Zealand's booking system went down.
Yeah, flights were
boarding passes and stuff like
grounded in Auckland.
Their servers go through the Microsoft part of the internet. More worrying, Minecraft was down.
Oh my gosh! How did the world survive? Holy shit!
So yeah, it is really funny. Like, we like to think of ourselves as an advanced and resilient species, and I tell you what, if you can't get your internet fixed, we are not resilient. We will go to pieces. Someone unplugs the internet, and I bet we are dressing in animal skins and living in hollowed out logs by the end of the week.
Gosh, we're getting instructions in the thing what to do. Where is your mic, Cherry? Oh, that's a point. Have you got it stuck up your bum hole again?
Here is my mic.
Well, they're going to also, you sound great doing just that. So, okay. So tonight on the show, we're going to have a look at Kieran McAnulty versus Nikki No Boats on the capital gains tax. They were on breakfast this morning. Winston's pretty pissed about this Fonterra sale. I think one of the interesting things about the Fonterra sale is that they've signed an agreement that says they only have to buy like the milk solids, that version of it, from Fonterra for 3 years. And so one of the big issues is what happens after 3 years if they then go, this French company goes, yeah, I think we'll just get it from Europe. Now Fonterra is going, well, they won't do that because they want and like the New Zealand product, but
slight clarification there. So they've bought the rights to the brands. Oh
Yep.
God, sorry, I'm getting mad echo. They've bought the rights to the brands for 6 years, but the access to the milk for 10. So we get New Zealand brand distribution, looks great for us, whatever, it's being done by the French company. And then when the time runs out on those brands, they just go, cool, New Zealand milk is in the European brands that we do. And there's no mention of New Zealand and that sort of thing. I hate this because I agree with Winston here, and it does make me worry that this is just shitty populist policy.
Yeah.
But it does seem like a really short-term, money-orientated decision by Fonterra farmers. I believe they're on the receiving end of 200 grand each.
Yeah, this is okay. Stop, because you've just said something really interesting. And they did say something about 3 years on One News as I was watching it, but I've obviously missed it. I was running the dog at the time. TVNZ said each farm will get about 400 grand. TV3, because I watched that, we're going to watch that tonight, says each farm will get about 300 grand, and you're saying now 200 grand. We're more responsible than either of those two parties, Chewy, so we'll go with your number. But there is a huge irony here. We're kind of burning the lead here a bit. We've got our powders getting very wet. But there's kind of an irony here that this government has turbocharged an economy that requires businesses, such as farms, to need more capital because the economy is so bad at the moment. So, of course, they were going to say, yes, I need that. We'll call it 300 because that's midway between TV1 and you, Chewy. I want that 300 and I need that 300, but maybe the only reason they need that 300 is because of this government who's now complaining about them making the decision to take the 300. Well, at least part of that government is. So, yeah, it's round. But, yeah, all sorts of stuff going on as well. I want to say a huge thanks as well. Let me just remind you of something we're doing on the BHN store. And look, I'm very excited because we have another beard to bow down to coming on tonight. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look at that beard in the middle of Heemi. Whoo! Some lessons for us coming up, Chewy. I pointed out to you guys last night, and I'm not going to push this too hard, but just to let you know, if you literally want to get involved in our Christmas party, you can. See down here on the new merch available, there is the availability for you to I guess we could be a bit more cheesy and go buy us a Christmas turkey or something, but a way that you can make a donation to our Christmas party. As I said last night, we are and we're either flying down, we're either paying for or partly paying for, depending on where they've come from, people from Whangarei, from Auckland, from Wellington, from Christchurch, and Chewy, the biggest distance, Mosgiel, to come to Dunedin for a Christmas lunch, all people who are involved with BHN. So there is a bit of a cost to it, and I thought if you guys want to get involved, you can look at this fantastic design that my lovely wife did yesterday of the BHN Christmas lights, and head to the bhn.nz and have a look at a way that you can contribute straight to the BHN Christmas party. And that's only going to go to the Christmas party, 100% of the money that comes through. And I was just going to say, a few people, I think Adele was one today, a few others actually decided to do that. So a huge thanks. It's lovely. It's a lovely thought if you want to get involved that way. But anyway, we'll talk about, didn't say this yesterday, but Chewy, I'll just put it back. I'm terrible at this. All the new pins. I told you this, Chewy, but I'll tell the whānau this. I want to say every single one, but it was every single one. It might not be every single one so far, but the majority of people who have made orders have ordered this one. Tax work less, tax wealth more. We've sold in 3 days 20% of the stock of those pins. 20% of the stock that we bought across has already been sold of the tax work less, tax wealth more. Now, we're going to keep that in the store, obviously, and there's still 80% there, so there's quite a bit. But if the speed of uptake continues, we may have to restock. And if it's something that you're interested in, something that you want to get, it might be a good time to think about the tax work less, tax wealth more. And of course, if you're a patron, there's a special deal on our Patreon page, which is 2 for 1. Sorry, 3 for 2. Buy 3, credit 1 back. That's how it works. Anyway, right, let's get on with this, shall we? Because we've got guests, singular, and the big conversation that we're going to be talking about tonight has to do with the topic we covered last night around the new curriculum. We should all be celebrating this because, of course, according to David Seymour, they've finally gotten rid of the Marxist ideologies in the curriculum subjects of primary school. So no more Marxism in primary school, whānau. It's all gone. We're all going to be safe from here on in. There was a lot of controversy and a lot of critical positions taken by some of the experts who were then brought on board to help write the documents, who would then, it would appear to be ignored about their thoughts, and other things were done. Some of those same experts, they had their names put to the document that they no longer recognise, as they were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements to not be able to talk to each other. And so there's a whole bunch of people who are like, we didn't know anything about this, and this doesn't look like anything like we suggested. You know when you've been picked for a sports team, sure, you know about this, and you go through and have I been selected? Well, all these experts are going, now where's my bit? Oh, hang on, my bit didn't make it at all. And it appears that most of the experts, and we heard it on the news last night, Dr Susannah Smith from Physical Education New Zealand, basically saying, I can't see us in this anywhere, and us were the people advising. Susannah's busy tonight, but we're very lucky to have on with us from Physical Education New Zealand Managing Director, Heemi McDonald. Heemi the Beard McDonald. Sir, welcome. Kia ora.
It's great to be in bearded company, and I was going to say that you need to do some beard product merch.
I have thought about that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good beard products out there on the market. You cannot buy stuff from the supermarket.
Yep.
So, hey, that's where I think you need to go to next. I definitely like the tax not work, but yeah, I'm on for the beard products.
Yep, no, I've definitely thought about that, and we're going to have a bit of a break over summer, and I think that summer break will be a little bit of planning, and that's on the, when I say that's on the agenda, I'm not guaranteeing it, but it's certainly on the list of things to look at, beard oil and that kind of stuff as well, which would be great. Big hairy beard oil, something like that, I don't know. Just spitballing ideas here.
Yeah, sounds good.
So Heemi, Suze was on the news last night talking specifically around the physical education part of the curriculum, and I thought we all looked at that and went, holy crap, what's going on here? It's like going to see the doctor telling you what's wrong, then going to the chemist and the chemist giving you something completely different despite what the doctor's just said. It's like the experts have said XYZ and these guys have printed ABC. So we thought maybe what we could do is go to one of the areas, and your physical education, health and PE. Physical education will still involve movement patterns, activities, games and sports. Health education, which we're not going to talk about so much overall. And to kind of look at maybe what the curriculum is now, maybe have a look at, is the current curriculum fit for purpose? If not, what needs to change? And then have a look at what the government is proposing. So why don't we start with, and listen, whānau, remember, we're just talking PE, physical education, because that's what Heemi's a part of, but hopefully this will give us a bit of an understanding as to maybe what some of the other curriculum areas are thinking about and thinking through as well. So
point there. I mean, sorry, just to jump in there, you touched on a good point around the health and physical education part, because really as a starting point, what people probably don't know, but what happens in practice at the moment is that health and physical education is interconnected.
Yeah.
They work together. And I can't speak to the health content, but what I can say is that in what we're seeing at the moment, it seems to separate the two. So, their well-being elements, the whole water, which isn't there, those things are seen as something that might be taught in isolation from the physical activities or experiences kids will have. So it is an important piece of the puzzle, but the NDA kind of experience and the way in which the process is unfolded has prevented people from talking to each other. That's basically it. So even within our own kind of learning area, so for people who might not understand how that curriculum works, it's a single learning area with multiple parts that work together. We haven't been able to talk to each other under NDA arrangements or the process for development. So it's been one of the biggest struggles as you've kind of gone through this. And I think what you're seeing with the likes of Susie's response and the response from others is this kind of blindside effect, is that, yeah, the doctor told us one thing, but we couldn't tell anyone that's what the doctor said. And then the prescription was secret. So when you got to the chemist, you did get delivered something. But yeah, I think that's certainly part of it, but it is process. And I think what we're seeing is a lack of trust. It's hard to trust someone when everything's secret. And it's not that we don't understand the need to keep some things in confidence, because that's important when you're trying to develop stuff that might be contentious and everyone has a view on, and we've got to get somewhere. But it hasn't felt like an open, transparent process of consultation with the community. And you certainly don't want to walk out one day and at 9 a.m. receive a curriculum and be completely lost as to where this came from and who it represents. So I think in fairness, there's stuff in there that is okay, that we will still need time to digest, but what's actually come out doesn't represent what contributions have been made. And that's the key part that we're kind of grappling with.
Yeah, I want to talk about trust, but just before I do, not to derail the conversation, I think I need to change my name, because Chewy's changed it for a joke. And anyone coming across the name Black Pat, Chewy, might be taken in a particular way. So it's going to put it back to Pat for now, just in case. Just
feel accused.
We understand Chewy's on dial-up. This is
yes. No, I was going to say the thing about trust. It's like the other option, right? You're talking about they don't trust. The other option is they don't care. The other option is like it's my way or the highway. So it's got nothing to do with trust at all. It's like, Seymour, as I said, literally called it Marxist ideologies. So they're just like not caring, and they're just going to do what they want anyway.
There's a certain amount of rage baiting going on, and I think that's really just unhelpful for everyone. What it also kind of leads to is kind of like the demonizing of the profession, to say anything that a teacher is unhappy about in this process is really just a reflection that they're unhappy with the government or things like that. But there is stuff that is emerging that can be damaging for our young people, and that's really the challenge that we're kind of grappling with, is how do we proactively have a conversation with a system that isn't working for the sector, where there's justifications about why it's the way it is, and you just got to trust it and keep going, when there's really an erosion of trust. And that's what we're seeing, is that we can't talk to each other, we can't talk to our experts that may be reviewing or advising. And so when we think about what's hitting the ground, what you're seeing is an exposure event. We're being exposed to what's being written. And when you have things like, I think Pauline Cleaver in the press this afternoon or this evening wrote that the curriculum was written, this kind of speaks to part of the challenge. Cleaver said the curriculum was designed and written by New Zealanders, but Australian educational consulting company Learning First was hired to provide advice on writing clear and specific content across the curriculum. So there's this term writers, and I'm sure you'll both kind of appreciate that there's a different way people will view writers. And in the way in which it's being presented, it's disingenuous. It's not that our contributors or our reviewers have actually written that curriculum. It has been written by the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Education has made decisions, and those decisions have isolated the community, and they've surprised the community, and they've caught everyone off guard, because that's not what we saw coming. And I think that's the reaction we're getting, not just from ourselves, but from other groups, is this process problem. It's not that people don't want to be at the table, because that's what everyone's saying, is they want to help contribute to a curriculum that reflects our people, our our aspirations for the future, but we're kind of being locked out of that. So that's, I think, what's at the heart of some of the stuff that's going on at the moment. There's criticisms of the stuff that's in the curriculum, and some of it is, when you read it out, it sounds archaic, because it is. But the sector is being drawn in, I think, and certainly from our experience, we've been drawn into having a conversation about that, instead of having a conversation about how do we get back around the table in a meaningful, real way to have open consultation about this. This is going to affect our kids for the next 20 or 30 years. We're not talking about next year they can fix it and tweak it. This is not how this works. And so the risk is high, the trust is low, so you have a perfect storm of concern, worry, and really not knowing where to go next. And we can't get caught in a loop that's unproductive. We need to actually make some change, but how do we get people back into the conversation?
Yeah, there is also a huge irony here that I don't know if anyone in the media has picked up on yet, how this government was talking about the teachers' strike and stuff being political, and now David Seymour is claiming that ACT is fully responsible for these changes in the curriculum, meaning it's political. Chewy, sir, jump in.
I love that it's always a comment from David Seymour that just shows that when he doesn't know what Marxism is. He's just, that's Marxism, I don't like it. It seems to me that with the local input from educators into this, it's got local people's names on it. They probably did have some input into it, and then along comes this outside consultation group, changes everything, leaves people's name on it. Do you guys think that you've kind of just been used as a cover, a fig leaf for an ideological change to the curriculum?
I think that really is at the heart of how it feels. Whether it's the reality, it's hard to know, because the conversation is not transparent. So it does feel as though it's an experience of kind of, you've been invited in, but only so far in, and we only trust you so far. And then at some point something changes, and all of a sudden we're going to just take a pivot or a U-turn and do something that we wanted to do all along. So it's hard to I guess articulate that. But what we do know is, from a PE perspective, at least I can speak to that, the PE curriculum was internationally recognised. In the 1999 version of the PE curriculum was internationally recognised by UNESCO and the IOC for its innovation and holistic vision for learning. So we know we've got a world-leading curriculum. We know we've had a world-leading curriculum. It doesn't mean that we didn't think change was important and that we needed to do some strengthening, but it's the way in which that's occurred that has led to all of those kinds of feelings. Whether they are the reality, we can't get straight answers. And that's really what we need. We just need someone to speak openly and transparently about what's happening, why it's happening, and then what can we do to fix it, because it's not there yet. It's not that we don't want to do it, it's just not there. And being used as a cover doesn't feel good for anybody.
When you say it's world leading, that implies to me, maybe I'm being a little bit too all encompassing, but if something's world leading, it doesn't need big changes. It needs tweaks and things to make it a bit better. Oh yeah, okay, we could improve this here. Oh, we can improve this area. When you look at the curriculum that was and the proposed curriculum that is to come, especially we're talking about physical education, your area of expertise, is it tweaks? Is one of the areas that's kind of got through without too much of a change? Is there significant change? And what is it if there is?
I think what we would say about the curriculum in its current form and how it's been presented is it feels like we're going backwards. I mean, everyone has experiences of PE from school. And if you can think about the ones that are those experiences that have felt like, being picked last on the team, not being able to climb the rope. I don't know if anyone did that. Remember what's that pommel horse thing they used to do in gymnastics?
Yep.
Those are the things we're talking about. We're not talking about a forward-thinking curriculum. What we're talking about is a regression. And so while we kind of go through those details and try and figure out, what there is good stuff in there, it's hard to see anything that isn't 1950s, 1960s physical education.
That's exactly what we said last night.
Rewinding the clock.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's not that we don't believe in a structured kind of knowledge-rich approach. It's that the knowledge doesn't match the century, and we need that to be something that is relevant for our kids.
Yeah, when I saw that it was all about like ancient Greek philosophers and that sort of thing, I was like, well, there was a mention of the physical education people kicking back as well. Are we going back to, marching drill for kids?
Handing off batons is what Susie talked about.
Handing off batons. You have to learn the technique. And even,
well, how else are we going to win the 1936 Olympics?
There's going to be examples of that across the curriculum, and I think that's where the consultation should work those things out. The problem is, how do we trust the consultation process, and how do we get back to the table? Because at the moment, it's submit your feedback, and we'll fix it based on some criteria. Well, we don't know what that criteria is. We don't know who's writing the senior curriculum, for example, which is due out in term 1 next year. So that's another piece of the puzzle that's kind of circulating in all of this. And so it's not so much that we're unwilling to cooperate. We actually want to do that. We just don't know how in the current state that this curriculum consultation and development process is in. So we would say that is in the ministry's hands to sort that out. Come back to the table, come back to the associations. Don't require NDAs for everything. There's stuff that is commercially sensitive, fine, do that. But developing a curriculum shouldn't require the level of NDAs that we've had to prevent conversations that are actually designed to help develop a robust future thinking curriculum, not one that's grounded in 1950s or the 1960s.
So if I could put on my conspiracy hat for a little bit, if the public education system is going backwards, is this another way to make charter schools look new, exciting, and innovative?
It's certainly one of the dichotomies that we're seeing at the moment, which is really, I don't know how to describe that. It's odd. But, like on one hand, we've got this, work with the kids, deliver learning that's personalized and individualized and meets their needs, and build a charter school doing that. At the same time, we're saying, actually, they don't need all of that. What they need is a rigid set of knowledge or content that will help them to all succeed. So it's really difficult to actually make sense of that. The Associate Minister is saying, freedom, flexibility, do what you want, don't worry about the curriculum. The Minister's saying the curriculum's going to fix and solve the problems that we've got in education. So it really is nonsensical, is the only way I can describe it. Whether it's engineered, I'll leave that to the conspiracy theorists of us out there. I don't know enough to know, but what I do know is that it's really difficult to have a rational conversation when you've got those two types of dialogues going on at the same time.
Sorry, you go, Jerry. I'm just going to yell at my dog.
You're going to yell at your dog?
Yeah, I just did. Well, I told her to lie down. I'm not going to electrocute her. Not going to zap her.
Numbers.
No, not at all. So where to from here? So you haven't quite said it as bluntly as this, Heemi, but I think what I'm hearing is, how do you trust the system from here on in when, for example, they've done everything they can to avoid submissions and having to be responsive to submissions, if you look at treaty principles bills or regulatory standards or anything like that. So why is this going to be any different? Because at the moment they have a track record of going, yes, you can submit. What? 98.7% of you said this? We're going to do it anyway. But where to from here? The submissions are coming from you guys. Is the public able to get involved? Where to? What do we do next?
Yeah, I think there's always ways to get involved, and apart from the stock standard, like write to your local politician. I think part of the challenge is that on the surface, some of this stuff looks good, and it's not so much the surface level stuff, it's the stuff in behind it, it's the system level stuff that's causing that's going to cause the harm. And that's the tricky part, is how do we help the general public, everyone else who's not like, knee deep in curriculum development like some of us, how do we help them understand that, what are your aspirations for your kids? What do you want for their future? How do you see that playing out? Can you see them in this? And if not, how do you speak up about that? You get on, talk to your local politicians, get in touch with the associations, the subjects that you might be interested in. They're all, they all have websites, they all have contact emails. Ours are really available. People can get behind it. I guess what we probably need is a system level response to this, because everyone going alone is one part, and you've seen that. I mean, everyone's kind of grumbling and these things coming out. But what we actually need is a system level response to say, we don't have much confidence at the moment. And that then becomes the ministry's responsibility to turn around and say, okay, how do we fix this? Because if there are multiple areas of our community who are saying we cannot trust this process to represent the vision and the values that we hold, then that should be enough of a signal. I mean, apart from that, we just continue to petition and to argue and to speak out. And I think if people are silent, that's probably the hardest part, because we know there are people who agree that this is problematic in its current form, but they don't know how to have a voice. And I would say find an avenue to share something, say something, talk to someone, join into a group that's interested in it, and try to add your voice, because the more voices of reason that we have, the hope is, and I'm a bit of a, I don't know, cynical optimist sometimes, but I guess the message is, if there's enough of the community who are saying the same thing, surely something should change. I don't know if that was helpful or useful, but
I think it's good talking about the voices of reason. That's why we bring people like you on, because that's not me and Chewy. That's not the world we live in. Being reasonable.
I'm an insane person.
Yeah. Okay. It was just thinking about it, and as we wrap up, this is the wrap up. Is like the thing, I guess, that those of us in the public looking from the outside in is when we hear, and I know I'm using a bit of a coverall, but all of the people who contributed towards this document are like, hang on, this is not what we said, and the government says this is exactly what the kids need. Then that fills up with concern, and that's what we need to keep an eye on it for. And these guys are going to, if these guys had a motto for their first 2 years, it would start with the word fast track and probably end with the word something like or ignoring the public's view. It's like it's what they're setting themselves up to do. So thanks for what you do. Thanks for being involved. Thanks for that beard. And thanks for coming on tonight and sharing a bit of this with us. And I know that you're PE, but representing that section of the curriculum tonight, we're going to keep an eye on this, because this kind of just feels, on some levels, it feels like school lunches all over again. This government's just going to serve our kids shit and tell them it's gold lined whatever, it's grade A steak when they're giving them shit. So
no, I appreciate them. I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for the mahi that you're doing. I think the questions need to continue to be asked, and there are a lot of unanswered questions. So appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for all your work in this area too.
And I'll fire you an email when we get that beard oil on the website.
I'm in.
All right, Dan, you can be our face. You want to be our face of it? You can be our face of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. All right. So Heemi is going to be our model for when we bring our beard oil on. Thanks, dude. All the best, and thanks for your work as well.
Yeah. Kaki.
All right. Cheers, Peter.
Cheers, mate.
This is where you say thank you for your service, eh? Is that what you say to teachers and educators? Thank you for your service. Heemi in physical education.
Just because we had a physical educator on, I have to tell you about one of the funniest things that I remember from my PE class.
I've got stories as well that have come up.
Barely monitored children loose in a gym. So we had a great big gymnastics crash pads.
Yep.
And while the teacher was out, I don't know, doing something,
having a cigarette,
we decided to grab one of the climbing ropes and see if it would stretch to the wall, which it did. which meant that we could climb those little climbing rungs on
Yep.
the wall,
Yep.
holding
Wooden
the rope.
climbing runs. Yep.
Yep, cool. And then we could sit on top of where the air conditioning vents were, about halfway up the wall. And then we decided to swing on the rope and then let go of the rope and land in the crash pad. Good fun. Excellent. What happens if you hit where the two crash pads go together? Well, those crash pads don't slow you down at all. You just go straight tail first into the
wood.
floor. Yeah, and you have to get a ride to hospital. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. But man, did I laugh, because the kid that did that was the class bully. And
Right,
everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's broken his back," and I'm sitting in the corner going, "Ah!" Yeah.
So what you can see, Whānau, is that Chewy has not changed 1% since 9-year-old or 12-year-old Chewy to the man you see before you today. I was listening to those stories, going, man, that sounds like a tame PE class we're talking about. I went to all boys Catholic schools. One of them was a boarding school, and there was no tameness there. Like, for example, if a kid in class, got in trouble, whatever, gave the teacher lip, the kind of thing that you'd get a detention for. No detention in PE. It's in the middle of the circle, with all the kids around you with various items from the cupboard to throw at the child, and 60 seconds have a free go. We did that one. And this one, I actually feel a little bit weird saying it out loud, because it feels a bit creepy when I say it out loud, especially when you tie it in with the word Catholic.
At a Catholic boarding school, a creepy thing happened?
Well, I can remember being at intermediate school, but you remember I went to school in the 1940s, so it was a different time. I can remember if you didn't bring your PE gear, you used to have to do it in your undies. PE in your undies, and I think back about that now, and I go, "Oh, dodged a bullet, maybe," but that was part of the rules. And then if you got it all wrong, you got hit with a piece of leather. Welcome to my childhood.
I have just received a message to my personal Facebook from someone confirming same school, same activity, same injury, different year. So I'm glad that people at my school never learn.
You get an award. You get an award for every year, and there's a different one every year that's given out to the kid who fell between the crash pads.
The broken tailbone award. Yeah, it's sort of what I was talking about with Heemi, with how backwards this curriculum is. What physical activities do you think? You talked about passing the baton for the 1936 Olympics. What about, come on kids, split in half, pair off. We're going to have one half of the class down this end, one half down the other, form a phalanx, and we're going to do bloody shields and wooden swords. We're going to learn to fight like Romans. That would be, actually, I meant it as a joke, but low-key, I think that'd be amazing. Don't know.
The one that I always have thought of with a modern version of it is that exact sort of thing, but water balloon fights. Because you can use the art department, you can go into the art curriculum by designing shields and stuff, and you can do small ball skills from throwing them, and you can make a whole lesson plan out of small ball skills, PE, art. And you can do history, because it's going back to Roman times, and have basically a water balloon fight out on the field in the hottest day of the year. Do that as well. Okay, now I'm actually going to show, I've got some clips and stuff that we haven't advertised at all tonight, but I might show them. And we were just talking about writing, which brings one to mind. But before we do that, Citizen wants to remind us 415 days at most of this shite fest. Well, if they get voted out, there's an if there, not to be a Debbie Downer. Good, it's Halloween tomorrow. The Nats are spooked. Chewy's internet needs fiber. It's constipated. Oh, I see what you did there. Needs fiber. Does anyone still have broadband, Chewy? Like, is it still a thing?
We all have broadband, Pat.
Well, fiber. I got fiber.
Well,
Dial-up broadband. What's the difference?
Not
oh,
dial-up.
God, you're a nerd. You know what I meant, nerd. Just answer my question. Sorry.
Are we going to be correct, Pat? Or
yeah.
Because ADSL is technically broadband. It's just over a copper Copper line. Copper line is getting phased out, and believe me, your Nana is mad about it because she needs to give up her landline and she can't speak to that lovely man Rajesh from Microsoft that says she has a virus on her toaster. Yeah.
Rajan says, I love the poorly educated. This government, probably. JC says, the government's focus on creating value, producing units, rather than allowing little humans to flourish is sickening. Culture wars have no place in education. Yeah, it is that whole kind of let's get them ready. It feels like let's get them ready for the factory floor. That's what this government feels like, which is why it feels like the 1940s.
Somebody's got to pull the lever on the AI machine.
Yeah. How much of the content is from the New Zealand initiative and the curriculum change, I guess. And Gold says you can't trust the current system. Gosh, look at them all. Heaps of them. JC here. The people of New Zealand built the dairy industry through socialist mechanisms. That value's been siphoned off by the private sector. Any benefit to the broader economy and society gone. Sure, that wasn't the deal. Who cleans up after? Well, it's a very good point. And thank you for the generous super chat. Mr. Alex, we'll get to your comment later on. Mr. Alex sends us lovely public service announcement for people in the Hutt area. We'll get to that a bit later on in the show. I learned something interesting today, that we are the most publicly educated population on the planet. Less than 4% of students attend private schools. I was I grew up through the Catholic system, and the Catholic system is an in-between. It's called an integrated school because it's kind of private, but it's open to the public and it receives an amount of public money. So it's sort of it's not even like a charter school, but it's sort of an in-between ground. And I think the government back in the day kind of allowed it to come out from under the private heading because they needed more schools. And so I understand they kind of did a deal with the Catholic schooling system and said, well, let's go 50-50, so to speak. So the fees are still higher, but not as high as a private school. And there's still some public money, but not as much as a state school. It's an integrated school. Government next idea is to bring back the cane, says Wooming.
I was just going to say about that previous comment about how low our private schooling level is. I replied to this in the chat, but just since I started and we're now talking about it, that's what I meant to happen. That's the flaw in the system that this government wants to fix. Because if there's not very many people going into private schools, because our education system is pretty good, then how do people make money?
Yeah.
And this is where the charter school thing comes from, is we have private operators with a profit motive coming in for a school with their fucking hand out for public money. People are making money. Public money into private hands, just exactly the same as they're trying to do to the health system.
Yeah. 100%.
They're working the plan.
Right, I'm going to play this because it actually you mentioned who's pulling the lever on the AI button, and we've talked about writing tonight. This one kind of covers off both cases. It's a short 60-second interview. It's Dame Emma Thompson, Stephen Colbert asks her about AI when it comes to writing. Of course, she's an Academy Award-winning writer. She wrote that movie that she starred in, and she won an Academy Award for it. So she's not just a writer. She's like, top of the pile writers when it comes for success. And this is her response about AI in the creative arts.
As a writer, what's your relationship with technology? How do you feel about the coming AI revolution? Because a lot of creators are worried about it.
Intense irritation. I cannot tell you. I cannot begin to tell you because I write longhand. So I write
this is
like legal pads or
on
something?
on a pad, old scripts actually.
Yeah.
Because I believe that there is a connection between the brain and the hand, and I think there's a real.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
If I have to memorize a part,
yeah,
I have
you
to
write
write
it
by
out.
hand,
Yeah,
and I'll get it.
So it's very important to me that, and then. When I've written something, I will put it into a Word document. And recently, the Word document is constantly saying, would you like me to rewrite that for you? And so I end up just going, I don't need you to rewrite what I've just written. Will you off? Just off! I'm so annoyed.
There you go. Just a little. I think there's a little bit of a Chewy vibe there, actually. So we could do a Emma Thompson foo-foo. Of course, it was Sense and Sensibility. So the novel was Jane Austen. Emma Thompson did the adapted screenplay. She won an Oscar for it. So she's a proper writer, and she thinks AI should fuck off. Basically, Chewy. There you go.
I loved Emma Thompson before this. I love her even more now. Holy hell, that was great.
It's actually really interesting because I mean, Fano taught me a lesson probably when we had a theme tune at the start of the show, and someone had made it for us, and it was AI, and it was cool. It was fun. And then we did a competition, and we realized actually what people are missing out here is on using AI rather than paying sort of creators and people who are creatives. It's a bit like, it must be hard for designers at the moment when you can go to Adobe Stock and basically just pick out a flyer and anyone, literally anyone, can make it. So yeah, I mean, that was, I guess when I say it was a lesson for me, it was that I'd never really thought about it. I never really thought about how AI can take away from the creative space. I'm just looking for something, Troy, because I have realized something about AI that it's good. But yep, you go.
There's a saying, and I'm going to butcher it because I'm trying to say it now. The idea behind AI was to give us more time for creativity by automating the work. And in fact, what it's done is stolen the space for creativity and left us the work. It's all backwards. And it's also removed the need for people to employ an artist. Like, you can just get a machine to spew out something that's passable, rather than give it to someone with a skill set that they've developed and is more unalienably human. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I started up this little podcast called Let's Talk Funny. It was a bit of a trial. Technically, it's on hiatus at the moment. It's on the YouTube channel if you want to go look it up. I did a podcast with Di Henwood, and he talked about AI, and he said how he uses AI as a tool, but doesn't rely on it. So if he's looking for, and I'm going to butcher it, go and watch the podcast if you want to hear about it. It's probably had about 200 views. Like if he's looking for vegetables for a joke, he'll ask AI to give him a list of the every letter of the vegetable. So he'll use it kind of as a research tool. And I finally twigged to that, and I'll show you exactly what I did in the week. I gave AI a prompt that gave me this, because I was trying to show my partner, because she's the idea I had for the BHN Christmas light logo. So I used this to kind of put my words to it, and then she came up with this, which is 1,000 times better, but it means that using AI as a tool to be able to, because, you know, I've been the kind of person who's drawn something on paper and kind of, but to get my brain's thought onto the paper thought, it seems that could be a useful thing for that. So I'm able to go, this is what I'm thinking, and the prompt was something like BHN logos surrounded by coloured Christmas lights with presents in front of it. And that's what, it's broken. It doesn't work, see the ends bust and stuff, but it give enough of the idea for then my wife, who was a graphic designer, to be able to come up with it. And this is all completely made. Like all of these wires, in fact, you can see I've made a mistake. I moved it. I think I probably shouldn't show you that, but the rope wrapped around it here is just missing because I moved it. So that's on me. I'll have to I'll get it to fix that up. So this is all completely, every single light is in there manually and stuff. But AI was good to be able to demonstrate a little bit about what I was thinking. It helped me, someone who's dyslexic, to get what I was thinking into something that was sort of like what I was thinking, and was never going to use the AI, but as a process to show this is sort of what I'm thinking. It was very helpful. So I can imagine using it for that.
So here's the point. You stumbled onto something there about AI. What it should be used for, right, is an accessibility tool, which would be amazing. You know, if people with a disability or something like that, AI should make their day-to-day easier. Instead, we have a tech industry that has developed a great big fucking hard-on for this stuff, and suddenly now your washing machine has to be AI enabled for some fucking reason. And I don't understand it. And like, as someone that works in tech, retail, telecommunications, all of that sort of thing, I see it everywhere. Like from the corporate side of things, it's like, oh, well, we're going to get AI to do this. And I just want to go, why? Why do we get AI to do this? It's taking notes from a meeting, and we're not 100% sure if it's correct, but it's doing a job, so we'll just tick a box. I saw a study the other day that said the use of AI in the workplace makes everybody think less of the person that uses it. In every single instant, they think they're dumber, they think they're lazier, they think that they're less creative and less capable if you use AI work to interact with your colleagues. I also saw an example of like just basically an AI chain of work. Right, so someone has to do a presentation. They use ChatGPT to write the presentation.
Yeah.
Right, it then gets cleaned up by fucking Grammarly or whatever, and then it's presented. The people don't go to the meeting. They use AI to summarize the meeting for them, and then they use AI to generate a plan of action out of that meeting that nobody fucking went to. You know, and it spits out this piece of work that basically no human has touched and has zero value. And it needs somebody to go through and find the mistakes. And that just doesn't sound like we're breaking some sort of barrier into a glorious future.
Yeah.
Where we're just free to pursue our dreams. It sounds like slop. And what's driving it is this massive investment bubble that's something like 5 times bigger than the .com bubble when it popped. People are pouring so much money. I saw a thing that said that there is almost the entirety of tech venture capitalism is tied up in the AI bubble with almost no chance of it paying off. People are going to lose their skin when it pops.
Yeah. There was another thing. Marquez Brownlee, probably one of the world's foremost tech reviewers. He did one. Was it today? Yeah, it was today, 7 hours ago, on this humanoid robot. Now, the humanoid robot is not here
Well, I hate that.
It's not quite here. I'm not going to play the audio because, but there's a humanoid robot. He does say easy, and it's not quite there yet. But I just had this thought. Soft body. I just had the thought that they want $20,000 for it, and at the moment it's not doing that. But what it will do, because this is of what they're expecting it to do, it will do your washing, it will do your dishes, it will vacuum, it'll water your plants. It's not there yet. He never said that this is a person in a dress up suit doing that, but that could be a person in a dress up suit there. The hands could be, I'm guessing, but this is the idea of what it's going to be. And I just had this thought, you go to work, and you set your robot off, and you get home, and your house is tidy, and then it goes and plugs itself in. And the thought I had, a bit like using AI to get through all this creative process, is what will we fucking do? Like, what will we end up doing? Like, our jobs, if they're still there, if we're not on a universal basic income by then, we still have jobs, and our compute or our robot will do all the housework, and so probably, and at some stage cook for us. But if we're still cooking, we cook and we just leave all the dishes there. Robot does all of that. So we're just becoming a person of leisure and nothing else. It's just, I don't know, on one level you kind of go, that sounds like nice for a few weeks, but I don't know what the world would look like if all we ever did was, but just let me say this, and don't put this in, don't take this the wrong way, but pleasure ourselves. Easy. If our only concern in the world was to have fun, to be relaxed, what would that world look like?
We would be all trying to fuck those robots. Look, that world exists now. Just imagine that every job that a poor brown person does or an immigrant does around the world is now done by a robot. The same people are making money. The same people are making money. Jeff Bezos will make money because he doesn't have to pay anybody. Do you think those guys are going to go, we've eliminated the human workforce? So I think it's only fair that you tax the bejesus out of me because I'm not paying anybody's wages, and we give everybody a UBI. No, these wretched dragons are not going to let their gold hoard get even slightly smaller. Not even slightly smaller. They're not going to accept it growing any slower.
Except the one difference between the poor brown person doing those jobs, like Elon Musk lives that life now, whatever. Rich person who's got full of servants, they live that life now. The difference is, I mean, Chewy, I don't know about you, but it'd be interesting. I'm not doing a survey. How many people out there could or would find 20 grand to buy a 24/7 housemaid? I mean, that doesn't feel as unattainable as paying for salaries for people to do that time because I'm that rich. So I think that's probably the difference between it's what's happening now versus it will be happening to, if not everyone, a hugely larger percentage of people. Doctors aren't, a doctor who is making a really good salary is not going to have a full-time housekeeper and maid. A doctor who's got a really good salary may spend 20 grand on a robot to have a, you know what I mean? So anyway.
I have watched too much sci-fi, too much Black Mirror, too much Orville, too much Terminator to think that this is a good idea.
iRobot, that's the one.
iRobot, yep, all of it. Like, how many times do we need to be told the lesson? Have you seen that meme where, like, the sci-fi writer creates a book called Don't Invent the Torment Nexus?
No.
It's like, so there's a popular sci-fi book. It's called Don't Invent the Torment Nexus. That's the whole storyline, the invention of the Torment Nexus that kills us all. And then tech billionaires that liked that story go ahead and go, just from the book that we all like, Don't Invent the Torment Nexus, I've invented the Torment Nexus. Oh no. And I get the same vibe when someone like Peter Thiel obviously loves Lord of the Rings and then invents an AI facial recognition, track everyone thing, and he names it after the evil object from Lord of the Rings that spies on everyone. Like, how many allegories, how many red flags the guy that doesn't think humanity should survive invents something that tracks us all and then sells it to the US military, to the Israeli military, and we go, oh yeah, this seems chill, we should definitely let this continue on.
So it used to be when you're at school, you should be nice to the nerds because they're going to be your bosses. And now it's be nice to the nerds because they have the potential to end the world. That's what we're saying now. There's a difference.
A workmate of mine asked Siri a question. The answer was given, and he goes, thank you, Siri.
Oh.
I'm just like, you're thanking the robot. That's probably good planning. The robot will remember your kindness in the end times.
Peter says, I feel like I'm an old man yelling at the cloud, but I'm strongly ambivalent about surrendering control of my tech ecosystem to AI and apps. Interesting that the conversation around AI popped up pretty big in the chat. I use AI to summarize BHN chat each night. Wow. Brendan says, I use AI as a search engine. That's all really. And Anthony says, you could make the same argument about, I guess they're saying about using AI versus using a designer for computers and laser printers displacing sign writers. You probably could. I was going to say, but then again, perhaps those sign writers became the designers on computers and laser printers. But I know the response to that would be the designers now are the ones that should be learning the AI and using it, perhaps. I heard that breathing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Technology always puts people out of a job, but up until this point, we have always had it's been replaced by a new skill. Like, there's a reason why everybody in the 50s worked in a fucking factory, because we didn't have any automation.
Yeah.
But at that point, we were paying factory workers wages high enough for them to raise a family of 2.5 children, keep a wife somewhat happy, or at least loaded up to her eyeballs enough not to notice, and buy a house. And we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. All right. It is it's time to move on. Last one from Red Rover. AI bubble is the result of venture capitalists trying to get market share. If they hadn't learned it before growth in social media, they do now. There is one more here. We'll go to Citizen Gold. Any public sector industry that has a private sector should have a special tax bracket that is much higher, and that tax goes to that public sector. Interesting thought. All right, moving on. I've actually got two other little stories, and hopefully they won't engender a 20-minute conversation as well. Hopefully there'll just be two other little interesting stories.
Sorry, everybody.
No. It's all good. We, of course, have been talking about the CGT all week, or since we've been here all week. Luxon is having a bit of a hissy fit about Christopher Hipkins pointing out that he made $600,000 last year tax-free, which is about 100 the PM salary is 400 and something. So it's 150k higher than the Prime Minister of New Zealand's salary, and he made it all tax-free. And remember what Mr. Luxon said. It's not about me. That's what he says. It's not about me. It's interesting that a lot of the responses have been about national and have been about individuals within national when they're saying it's not about them. Anyway, CGT conversation went on this morning with Kieran McAnulty and also with Nicola Willis. Let's have a look at part of the conversation. This part of the conversation, the question that Jenny May is going to get to is asking about the CGT, and Nicola Willis basically comes out saying, "Oh, this is I'm paraphrasing, but this is an attack on everyone. CGT under the bed. It's an attack on everyone."
Nationals set the CGT idea from the Labour Party as terrible.
Yeah, well, look, it's a tax on everyone who has saved hard, who's invested in something. And really what it will do is add cost for a lot of people, which is damaging to the economy. And ultimately, it's a policy that's about punishing gains, growth and achievement. And we're a party that's about rewarding that. And we want to reward people who do the right thing and who are investing. We want to reward businesses who grow. And this is going to be really complicated. Think about a corner dairy. You sell your corner dairy. Well, Labor have said we want to tax the return on the sale of the property. Well, that's a tax on a business. And
now, she says this is not... Yeah, I'll talk us through this. Because she says that this is a tax on everybody. And I said this last night, and I got it wrong in that I assumed they were saying the wrong thing, because what they're saying is if the dairy, because it's a tax on residential property excluding the family home and commercial property. So in other words, I made the assumption last night that the person who owned the dairy would be renting it to the dairy owner, because I thought that would be the highest proportion of dairy owners. What she's saying is, the only way that this example works is the dairy owner who also then owns the building. So the dairy owner will only pay a capital gain tax if he or she also owns the building. Now, I went to the Dairy Owners Association today, Chewy, to ask them what proportion of dairy owners own versus rent their building. I would assume that it will be quite disproportionately rented rather than owned, but I don't know that. And the Dairy Owners Association never came back to me, so we can't answer it. So she's going to say in another one of these clips that it's not really targeted, while she's using an example here which is incredibly targeted. She's not just talking about dairy owners, she's talking about dairy owners who also own the dairy, the physical building, and the example she's about to give is who also have worked all their life and then want to sell it. So the example she's giving is like, there's the dairy owner population of New Zealand. There's the dairy owner population of New Zealand that own their own dairies. There's the dairy owner population of New Zealand that are using that dairy ownership to save for their retirement. So it's like smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller is the example she's giving of why this is bad. Whereas Labor's going, hey, we're all getting something good. And she's going, not this group, not this group, not this group, but this group, for this group, really bad. And also remember this though, it's not that the dairy owner who does own the building as well is going to come out of this harmed. It's going to be If they make a profit selling the property, then they're going to pay a portion of that in tax. This is not the way that they're selling it, is that dairy owner is going to go bankrupt. Now, they never use those words, but they're making it sound like the dairy owner is just going to be screwed for the rest of his life because of the CGT. Well, no, because if they make a huge amount of profit off the sale, then they'll still have most of that. They'll have 72% of that. And if they make a loss or they sell it at break even, they'll pay nothing. So it's the heightened sense of this is the end of the world, and dairy owners in particular, Chewy, they're going to be hit by this hardest of all. Let me push play.
The property. Well, that's a tax on a business. And so that will impact every small business in the country who are trying to build up some wealth.
No, that will affect every small business in the country who owns the building they are sitting in, right? Because they have to own the building, the commercial building, when they sell it to pay a CGT. So it's not every small business in the country, right? We just need that addendum. It's every small business in the country that owns the building that they are working in, which is going to be a very small percentage of every small business in the country.
Who are trying to build up some wealth for their nest egg, for their future.
Kieran, I'll bring you in here. Is this punishing people, this CGT tax?
It's a pretty weak argument when you've got to make things up to make your point. We've made it very clear that the only things that are involved here are commercial and residential property, excluding the family home. And if you look at the social media posts from the National Party, they're trying to scaremonger everybody that this is an attack on all sorts. It's not. It is quite clear that cost should not be a barrier to healthcare in this country, but it is. And far too many people are either putting off going to see the doctor or simply can't go at all. And we say that is not good enough. If we bring in a capital gains tax that excludes the family home and excludes farms and Kiwi savers and shares and businesses, but just focuses on the property, that we can pay for 3 free GP visits for everyone, which will make a massive difference to their health and their cost of living.
Is it targeting the right people, though, Kieran? I mean, Chris Hipkins says, no to a wealth tax, but just wondering whether this one here is targeting the right people, because you'll have mum and dads who have got, the one house, and they'll get taxed on that.
Well, the 9 out of 10 Kiwis won't be impacted by this tax. It also won't touch on any gains in value and property that have been made up to the 1st of July 2027. It'll only be forward-looking and only on increases in value from that point. It's also true that working people in this country pay tax on every dollar that they earn, whereas people can sell property, make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, just like the Prime Minister last year, and not pay a cent in tax. And we think that putting a tax on that profit to put into healthcare, and as part of that package, allowing people to have 3 free GP visits, saving them having to wait until things are so bad that they go to the hospital, which then imposes an even bigger cost on the country, is a good use of that.
There you go, Chewy. Yep. So it's one of these things like we talked about with old mate Garner the other night. Sometimes people can say stuff that's accurate, but without context means very little. It is accurate that a dairy owner may have to pay a capital gains tax, but only if they jump through these 3 hoops that are going to make it such a small number of people, a small slice of the pie, versus all of New Zealand will benefit from this. So they have to basically come out, this government, and scaremonger over the 3 dairy owners that this is going to impact versus the 300,000 in that small city that this is going to benefit. It's a losing argument. Unless, of course, like Trump's managed to do, for some reason, that low IQ voter, they can make it stick. So
this has brought out so many social media bootlickers that just don't understand what's going on, that I fear for the future of humanity. I'm just going to read one that I commented on before. Looks like all the haters have got the knives out for people who work hard, save their money, and want to succeed for them and their family. Sad. What's the answer to that? I work hard, I save my money, My income is taxed, my savings are taxed, I'm taxed every time I buy something.
Yep.
The people that own multiple houses in a housing crisis aren't producing anything, and they get tax breaks, they get interest deductibility, and they don't have to pay a cent when they sell a property for more than they paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
How is that right?
Mm-hmm.
This dude's answer, and so do landlords. They pay council rates, which have gone up 15% the last 3 years, and insurance and maintenance. You can do the same. Maybe you should manage your finances better. Very smug. Doesn't make any fucking sense, but very smug. I pay the rates for my property, and if I was renting, I'm paying the landlord's rates.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that works. The landlord is not paying the rates out of the fucking goodness of his heart. It's a business. The rates are a cost. The maintenance is a cost. It just so happens that his maintenance, his interest deductibility is taken away. The person living in his asset is paying his fucking costs. He's paying his mortgage. He's not doing anything. And then he sells the property, makes a shitload of money, taxman doesn't get any of it, laugh all the way to the bank, buy more houses, start chaining it together, build a portfolio. That's how you have money in your retirement. That's what any financial advisor has been telling anyone with a little bit of money for the last 40 years. And here we are, housing crisis. No government has done anything about it for the last 20 years. We've just moved the deck chairs around and argued about maybe it's a housing crisis. Maybe people sleeping in cars isn't so good. Should we do anything about it? Not really. Here we have the first real attempt to maybe cool the market a little bit and pull investment money out of old houses and into something more productive. And then the side benefit is, let's look at a long-term benefit for people's health. This is a win fucking win. And that is illustrated by the fact that national social media team have got nothing but lies. So my answer to anyone talking about this on social media with these bootlicking fucking window lickers is to ask them, how many houses do you have? Because I guarantee that a lot of these people squealing about this on social media are either bots and aren't real,
Yeah.
or don't have a property portfolio. They just like national because
And
of the
it's-
color blue.
And it's that other thing that you see in America quite a lot is, for some reason, there are a lot of people who are in a lower socioeconomic status who identify with the political party, in their case the Republicans, and they have this fake narrative in their head, which is, yeah, we should treat the rich people well because I might be one of them one day. And there's plenty of research which says you're not going to be. Like, there is research that says talking between the bands of, it's basically impossible to go between the bands to become those rich and wealthy people. It doesn't happen. There's the odd unicorn who is a basketball player out of the projects or the urban centres, or there is the lotto winner or whatever. But working your ass off hard, you don't get it. But they've been sold this fake American dream, which is work hard and you too can own a Learjet. And they believe it. And so it's like, well, of course, because when I'm rich, I don't want to be paying all those taxes. So those rich people shouldn't pay their taxes. That's the other thing that could be in New Zealand as well. People wanting to own 7 rentals, and so they want they want the benefits ready for when they get there.
No, look, I think we need to realise that the vast majority of people in New Zealand don't own multiple properties. The vast majority of people are not going to own multiple properties.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of New Zealanders are lucky to be able to get a deposit together and get a mortgage. And this is because people have managed to game the system. Like, I think the banks have cracked down on this a little bit more, but didn't it used to be the case that you got a house, you could then leverage the value of that house or the equity you have in that house to buy another house with no money?
Yeah.
and then let your tenants pay it off, and then leverage those two properties against the third property.
You get to a point. No, it's just numbers. And look, I mean, back in the day, the first house that I ever purchased with my then wife, we got the deposit from my dad, $35K. It was a $214,000 house in Glen Eden in Auckland. Bought that. A year later, it was worth $350,000 on paper. We used that money to buy the next property, which was our first kind of family home, and didn't put anything down. Eventually we sold the first property and paid my dad back and paid a little bit off the mortgage, but that's how we got onto the market through, I've used this word before, right? I was privileged to be born into the family I was. There was nothing that I did that deserved to be in that family. There was no work that I put out that met my dad, who worked hard. Like he's the kind of one of these guys that when he was first married, he'd work as an insurance salesman, and then in the morning he'd run 2 Herald routes in Wainuiomata. So he was a hard worker, and there was other times where he'd work as an insurance salesman during the day, and he would clean the post offices in the evenings. So that was how he was wired. It's got nothing to do with me, but put him in a position and my mum in a position that they could lend me $35,000. So that's nothing to do with me. That's completely to do with my dad's work ethic and my dad's lucky breaks and my dad's generation, where you could kind of walk out, and he started to do law. He dropped out of law. He didn't want to do it. And he started insurance, and he stayed there his whole life. Nothing to do with me. And it's a definition of privilege, and I completely acknowledge it. Probably if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't have a house today because of the start that he was able to give us, which we then paid him back, but it still got us on the ladder. So yeah, 100% that's what you can do.
I'm not going to shit on anybody that has that experience. You know, it wasn't my experience. All I managed to do was get on KiwiSaver as soon as possible. That was enough, and good timing and moving to Dunedin, so my deposit actually meant more than what it did in Wellington. But what I am going to push back on is two things. I am going to push back on this analogy that landlords deserve their money because they work real hard.
Yeah.
Like if taxation was based on how hard you worked,
yeah,
we can have that chat.
Street cleaners,
we can have that chat.
Garbage men, they'd probably get it most of all.
Landscapers and shit.
Yep.
People that lift heavy things for a living.
Those guys in
hard.
Dunedin and other parts of the country that are a bit colder in June who are working fixing our roads.
Linesmen after a storm. They don't have to pay tax anymore.
Yeah.
Let's have that discussion.
Yeah.
But here is the core issue. This is the reason why nothing has moved. The vast majority of our politicians, especially the MPs in our current government, are up to their fucking eyeballs in property. Okay, and it's not malicious. It's for the same reason that everybody puts their money into property. It is a tax black hole. It is a license to print money, and there is nowhere more effective to park your money than in property. So how can we expect our legislators to make good decisions about what to do with the property market and the housing crisis if they know, even if the back of their head, if they know that their fucking family trust or their blind trust is absolutely stuffed to the gunnels with property? How can we trust anyone to make that decision? Everyone is compromised.
Yeah.
So why do we let it happen?
Yeah.
Why can you have a portfolio when you're an MP? Everything you do is going to affect that portfolio. Cash out. If you want to be a politician, cash out your investments, put it into a savings account. Fucking, I don't want these guys to be so confident. Like it happened again. We had that national MP go, oh shit, I forgot about those 26 houses. Could happen to anybody.
Yeah. All right. Hey, listen, let's play the next clip. And Chewy, the chat saying that you've gone quiet again. And I suspect it's because you're away from your mic because nothing's changed.
It's right here. It hasn't moved, and I'm yelling.
You're about the right levels now. See, but I'm just saying,
all right.
something quite has changed. No, not that. No, not that. That's too far. All right. This was actually another part of the conversation where Willis does go on to say how the CGT is not targeted, meaning she's trying to sell the idea that this is going to impact every single. It's not targeted at all. Remember, she's just used that extreme targeted version of someone who runs a dairy, who owns a dairy, who wants to save the money for their whole. So she's targeting her example, but the CGT is not targeted at all.
Minister, this is a very targeted CGT tax in terms of it's going to health, and we know that our health system
It's
is under
not
a whole lot of
targeted,
pressure.
Jenny May. Look, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to rebut what Kieran's saying. He either doesn't understand the policy or he's misleading people, because he's saying it won't affect business. Well, let's go back to my corner dairy example. If you've worked on your dairy your whole life and you
got that? So you were born, you came out of your mother, and you were behind the counter selling cigarettes. Worked on your dairy your whole life. Like this is the second-hand Corolla. You don't you can make a case without sounding like an absolute moron, because there's no one who's worked on the dairy their whole life. You know, you don't have to go that far.
Why is being a dairy owner now the de facto, like the hard-working New Zealander that owns a dairy? It's fucked. This is stupid.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know. And this came out yesterday. I think it was Luxon who said dairy owner. So obviously this has been brainstormed. Workshopped around the 9th floor, and they're going with dairy owner.
Well, let's go back to my corner dairy example. If you've worked on your dairy your whole life and you own the property that the dairy's in, and then at the end of your life you decide to retire and sell the dairy.
So this is what she's now saying. You've worked on it your whole life. So let's stop being silly. Okay. So your first job, you're 20 and you work in there until you're 70, and then you want to sell that building. Like no one in New Zealand has ever done, not once, ever. But let's stick with that example right now. You've worked on the dairy your whole life, and then you want to retire, so you want to sell the building. I guess to one bit of credit, she said, and you own the building, because that's the only way this category works. Her example is they have to own the building as well.
Own the property that the dairy's in, and then at the end of your life, you decide to retire and sell the dairy. This policy would apply, because that dairy is a commercial property, and so it would face a 28% capital gains tax. So a large part of the business that you've built will now be facing a tax. And then he says, well, it won't affect KiwiSaver. Well, Kieran, what do you think KiwiSaver is invested in? I want KiwiSaver to keep investing in New Zealand businesses. And many New Zealand businesses own land, they own buildings. And what the Labour Party is saying is we want to tax them more. That reduces their returns. And actually it will impact others, because when your commercial property landlord knows they're facing an extra tax when they go to sell, they've got to make up for that return somehow. So that'll affect rents, it'll affect leases. This will affect the whole economy. There's no getting away from a simple fact. When you tax people more, people pay an extra cost, and that's damaging.
Oh, hey, Nicola, you didn't quite stick the landing there, mate. You got a case of the Luxons when you're trying to hit that one.
When you tax people more, people pay an extra cost, and that's damaging for an economy. And so I just think that's a reckless approach. And ultimately, we do need to reward those people in this country who are trying to grow things, build things, make things, not just punish them with more tax.
Kieran, I do want to.
Chewy, I heard you kind of breathe in there for a second. We're going to get Kieran's response, but do you want to say something
Jenny
first?
May needs to just pivot, stare straight down the camera and go, that's Nicola Willis, expert on wrecking an economy.
I know they can't. I don't know why they can't do this, but I mean, I'm not even suggesting I would ever do this kind of job, like I'm skilled enough to do it, whatever. But sitting there and not going, just point of order, Minister, what are you talking about? Any person out there working their whole life on a dairy, and then at the end of their life, they want it. Who are you talking about? Because that to me sounds like it's got a sum total of 0 people. So your example sounds like there is not a single person in New Zealand that would fulfill your criteria. What are you trying to tell us? But of course, it just goes by.
So this person sells their business, or the building that the business is in, or whatever fucking ridiculous example Willis is coming up here with. Would you say that the money that they got from the sale of that asset is income? Yeah, it's income. Cool. So it should have an income tax.
One more thing.
Why? Yes, sir.
Just think about what she said again, right? There's a dairy owner who's going to retire in 2028 because that's after it comes in. They've worked all their life on it. So they've been working on it since 1904, apparently. And then they're going to pay income. They're going to pay tax on it. So that means they bought the property for $20,000 in the 1970s. And they're now selling it for, and they're now selling it for 1.8 million. And they're selling it a year after the capital gains tax comes in. So they're paying $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 back in tax. Because if they've worked on it all their life, that means they've been doing it for at least 50 years. So they bought it in the 70s. Unless, of course, Nicola Willis is talking about in 50 years from now. Now, that's a Winston Petersism where he starts talking about the attack on the elderly being a change in the retirement age in 40 years from now. Because it's not an attack on the elderly, it's an attack on 20-year-olds because they're going to be the ones retiring in 40 years from now. So she's either saying it's someone who bought a dairy in the 1970s and for some reason is still there today and is about to sell their $20,000 investment for $2 million and paid 20 grand in tax. I guess it's not worth doing. Or she's talking about someone in 50 years from now when National's going to be back before that. You guys can fix it all. What's the problem? I don't know. Should we just get Kieran's last response?
Can Kieran just fix it, please?
Okay, Kieran, fix it, please.
Move on, but I'll just give you the last word on that one.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, I've just been accused of misleading, which is nonsense. Yet another distraction. The finance minister hasn't mentioned GP visits once. And I'll put this scenario to you. People that are going to the doctor that are paying money that they can't afford, and in some places in the country it's up to $100 to visit their GP. When they pay that money, they don't think, thank Christ, we don't have a capital gains tax. What they care about is accessing the health care that they need. And I think we can see from the response from Kiwis that when they look at this package, they think that it is balanced, when 9 out of 10 Kiwis won't be affected, but they and their family can go to the GP when they currently can't or it costs too much for them and their family. It's a fair package.
Did he solve that for you, Chewy? Is that all right?
It's fucking solved. And Willis and Luxon and Seymour and all the rest are just going to keep spiraling like their social media team to come up with some example where this is going to affect everybody in a negative way. And they can't do it. I must admit, when they announced this policy, it didn't blow my hair back. It didn't set the world on fire. But the more that I sit with it, it is just a good policy. It is better than what we have now. And at the end of the day, isn't that kind of what we want? We want someone to move the fucking marker forward a little bit. And we've been talking about a capital gains tax for decades for cooling down the housing market, taking some heat out of the housing crisis, for freeing up capital for investment in our businesses, in our small businesses and our ideas.
Yeah.
Instead of old fucking villas and bungalows. It's a win-win.
Let's have a look at some of the chats that have come in. Arvid says, yeah, bring up the dairy owners like that one that charged $900 a day just to come up with a dumb law endorsed by Brian Tamaki. We're talking about Sunny there? Sunny, yeah.
Seen Sunny?
It is interesting how they're doing the dairy thing so much. Why aren't they talking about the takeaway bar? Or maybe they have done their research. Maybe they've figured out that 9% of dairy owners are owned by the people in them, whereas 0.1% of takeaway bars or bakeries are owned by the people in them. So they have to go with one that, even though it's a pathetic number, is higher than the others or something. Howie says, for fuck's sake, the only cost is reduced greed, and the super comfortable people can just suck it up. Fuck them. Just a total world view based on the right to exploit. And Harmless Solutions Limited just says, here's $5. Thank you. Appreciate that. If you want to help us and support the work that we're doing, then one of the ways you can do that is to hit up the New Zealand Podcast Awards. The top, right, I think it's this one, left-hand corner, there is a QR code. If you click on that QR code, it will take you through to a page where you can nominate BHN for a Listener's Choice Award. If you're listening to the audio podcast, another way you can do it is head to nzpodcastawards.com/nominate, and you can actually be a part of helping us get our podcast in front of more eyes and ears, because it certainly is something that gives it a bump, and it gets mentioned in the press, and gets publicised a bit by other people, the results. And so if you want to support us that way, QR code, top left-hand corner, and also nzpodcastawards.com/nominate. Chewy. Right. We have got one more story. What are my other two little things? I had two really good clips to play. Maybe, how long was it? It's 2 minutes, Chewy. I actually have got it for you. I got it for you. It's on TikTok, so I'm just going to push refresh, because TikTok does this thing that it always then asks you to drag the puzzle piece along, and it happens every single time. So I'm doing that right now before I push play again, because if I don't, it would be happening right now in front of everybody. Yeah, I'll play this one. Maybe I won't play the last one, but this one's for you, Chewy, because you were talking about the Toitu Te Tiriti and the Te Pāti Māori sort of clash that's going on at the moment. And it's a really good bit done by Jazz, and I thought it's worth us playing if people haven't seen it. And Chewy in particular, you've asked for sort of what do we do? Should we speak to Māori about this? We'd like to get more informed on this. And Jazz kind of does it all in 2 minutes. Here we go.
I hate seeing Māori divided like this. So with all the turmoil surrounding Te Pāti Māori and the Toitu Te Tiriti movement, here is a list of things to consider. Number one, Māori politicians, political parties and organisations are going to be held to a higher standard compared to non-Māori. Please do not get caught up in the media frenzy and stick to the facts. Number two, do not listen to anyone who is critical of Māori affairs while remaining neutral or silent on non-Māori affairs.
That's very good. That's very good. And that's a little bit like when we talk about David Seymour, the way you can identify his racial undertones is he wants to, his words, equal the playing field, level the playing field for issues of race, but no other protected class. Doesn't talk about disability or religion or age or all the other protected classes. He doesn't want to level the playing field for them. He just wants to do it in race. And I think Jazz has just echoed that so perfectly by saying if they're only focusing on Māori issues and nothing else, then don't listen to them. It's absolutely solid and strong and to be remembered.
While remaining neutral or silent on non-Māori affairs. There is so much corruption and overspending in the current coalition government. If your chosen political commentators aren't commenting on both, then they aren't concerned with accountability, but rather holding Māori accountable. There is a difference. Number three, politics is not supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to be analysed, intellectualized and debated. If your only source of political information is coming from hot takes or the latest gossip or tea, then it's likely you're entertaining political grifters and clout chasers. Please start listening to political analysts, academics, lawyers, and educated political commentators. Number four, Te Pāti Māori is in its infancy compared to other major parties. In fact, it's the youngest major party currently seated. National was formed in 1936, Labour in 1916, the Greens in 1990. Te Pāti Māori was formed in 2004. It is going to have some growing pains. All major parties have issues. The only difference with Te Pāti Māori is they will be criticised twice. First as Māori and then as a political party. Let's not write off the only Māori political party over speculations and instead demand transparency while encouraging improvements. Finally, number five, Toitu Te Tiriti is a movement. It's organised activism upholding the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Any allegations that the movement is a scam are baseless at best and willful division at worst. Before shooting a loaded gun, make sure we know who placed those bullets. Let's not repeat Hobson Pledge talking points under the guise of accountability. I am all for transparency, but I refuse to engage in self-destructive behaviour. I want to see an audit. I want to see evidence. I want to see facts before I let anyone try to divide us any more than we already are. Te kaha e te iwi Māori, stay strong, but more importantly, stay critical.
Pretty good, yeah? What do you think, Chu?
points.
Yeah, I thought about, I mean, I'm not saying I did this for you, Chu, but I thought about your comments about, looking for sort of advice or leading from people within Māoridom, and I saw that today and I was like, definitely got to play this. You got any reaction to it?
Yeah, no, look, it's spot on. It crystallizes for me how I am going to proceed with us looking at this. Like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I like
really
it.
Good video.
It's good to kind of hear from someone within the Māori community saying basically, I'm not saying it's quite as black and white as, but we don't yet have all the facts. Like, I want to see an order, I want to see this, I want to see that, and not to get dragged around by hot takes. I thought that's a great point as well. And I think so often, I mean, says politics is not entertaining. I find that a little bit entertaining, but I guess hopefully when you join us here, you have a bit of fun, we have a bit of a laugh, we do all those sorts of things, but then we get people on who are the experts, who actually won't give hot takes, they'll give good, solid information, which is what we want to open the door for. Like, we'll be rodeo clowns, and we'll wave the things at the bulls, but then we'll get the people who have the nose on to nose as in they know more, not the nose, to actually
There is a question.
give us the yes.
Oh, sorry.
No,
There is
Sarah.
a question of who that person was. Somebody's missed. Who that creator was.
Jazz, I'll give you her full. Or did I close it? I closed it. I'll bring it up for you again. I just don't
And
want to close
there's
it.
also the suggestion that we should put it up on our Facebook page, which we
Jazz Cuddity. And I actually messaged Jazz and said, do you want to come on? And Jazz is thinking about it. So actually doing something that she said that people should do. She didn't go, yep. She's probably checking us out, which is probably the right thing to do, because we might not look like people who would be allies to Māoridom. In fact, we've heard it several times that people come across us and think, oh, who are these rednecks? And then they listen and they go, hang on, is that a Palestinian flag? And then they understand that whilst we know nothing, we like bringing on people who know everything in this world.
We have fooled people on both sides of the divide, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Oh, these people are my type of people. They're going to agree with me. Oh, no, they don't agree with my views. Now I don't feel very welcome. Shout out to the crunchies.
Study Boy NZ. Study Boy. Hey, Study Boy. The argument about dairy owners who have been there all their lives isn't a good one. For one thing, dairy, at least the ones I have seen, change every 5 to 10 years. I know, but this is the point. It's like when you have to, I mean, like, we all use analogies and we all use examples, but when you have to make up someone that, if you actually looked at the stats, is probably no person in New Zealand, if we're being honest. But if it was, it would be a handful of people. I mean, as soon as she goes, a dairy owner who has worked on the dairy all their life, it's like, well, okay, we're out. Already we're out. Oh, my fathers and my fathers' fathers and my fathers' fathers' fathers. I come from a long line of corner store owners. No, not the case. Not the case. I believe in clever Kiwi property speculators' ability to creatively pivot to a more productive field, says Table Salt. All right, let's get to the last story. I mean, we don't hear from him, but we do get a sense of Lord Volder Peters being a little bit annoyed with what's happening or happened today with farmers saying, we will take the sugar hit, please. Cash now, please. Give it to us, give it to us, give it to us.
Fonterra shareholders have voted overwhelmingly to sell its global consumer businesses, including the Anchor and Mainland brands. 88% of farmer shareholder votes favoured the sale to French dairy giant Lactalis for $4.22 billion. It means they'll each get a payday averaging around $300,000. But Winston Peters says it's a short-sighted sugar hit. Adam Hollingworth reports.
Mid-Canterbury dairy farmer Jeff Spark voted yes to selling the brands. For him, it was a no-brainer.
At the end, it was pretty compelling that for the best long-term interests of the co-op, we're better without the consumer business and focus on the ingredients in the food service business, which is what we really accelerate at.
Spark, like most others in the Fonterra cooperative, want to reap the benefits from their investment to carry out repairs and maintenance and generally play catch-up.
We'll use that capital to repay some debt and perhaps look to improve infrastructure on farm and also look for some deferred R&M, spend it back into the business.
At a meeting of the shareholders,
there's always that thing about selling public entities versus keeping. I know it's not quite the same, but I'm not anti-asset sales, full stop. It's devil is in the details thing. What do you get for it? And I remember when we sold off 49% of Air New Zealand and 49% of this power company, did it under John Key, they were using it to upgrade hospitals, to paint schools. Like there was this list of things that were a 20-year cycle of jobs that needed to be done. And so I was like, well, this is a terrible idea because in 50 years from now, you're going to need to do all these things again, and you're not going to have the asset to leverage against or borrow against because you've sold it, you've used the cash on if nothing else, a depreciating asset, if not an asset that's going to end up just falling over like paint on a wall, and you've given up an asset for that rather than borrowing against it. And this feels a bit the same. It feels like 300k right now, let's take the sugar hit, let's get it in there, and then you've lost the asset. Whereas, I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of farmers, borrowing that 300k and doing the work with it versus not giving up the asset seems, I'll say feels because I'm not a farmer, but feels like the smarter financial idea. I think all of us, if we could, this is going to make us sound like property inspectors, property investors ourselves, but most people, if they could, would keep a house and buy another one because you'd build it and build into it. But most of us can't do that. Most of us have to sell the house to buy the next house because that's how most of us live. It feels like Fonterra had the ability to keep the house and sell and buy again, but they've chosen, even though they could have afforded the financial transaction, to sell the house and then buy the new house. Do you know what I mean? Does it make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to comment on the fact that you should always be very wary if you're going to use the term, it was a no-brainer. Because, that could mean that it was a really obvious decision. It could also mean that no one had any brains in their head when they made the decision.
Well, they said it was supported by 88% of respondents and 80% of farmers responded. So 0.88% of 80, that means it's 70% of the actual farmers approved it. So that's a pretty big overall swing. If 20% didn't actually respond, 88% of 80 is 70. So that's a fairly overwhelming. Now, is it overwhelming because it was the best financial decision? I guess I can't speak to that. Or is it overwhelming because they needed that sugar hit because we're in a terrible economy because of this government? So they're selling to get some money to look after themselves in this bad economy. Or the government, or at least one part of it, Winston Peters, is saying you shouldn't be selling. Government saying don't sell. One part of the government saying don't sell. And they're having to sell because of the government, because of the economy that this government is creating. There's a pretty vicious cycle in there somewhere, if you know what I mean. All right, we'll keep going.
This morning, Chairman Peter McBride recommended the sale, allowing Fonterra to concentrate on business-to-business options.
This gives us choices. We choose to focus on B2B ingredients and food service because we have a proven competitive advantage and global reach. We are confident this is the best option for our farmers' futures and therefore New Zealand.
Carl Dean, who chairs the dairy arm of Federated Farmers, said the $300,000 payout may sound like a lot, but farms are big businesses with big debts.
Some of these farms will have, $4 to $6 million of debt. So $300,000 sounds a lot, but it's still, just chunks of a little bit of a 3 or a 5 year payment on the debt repayments.
Fonterra says the shareholders gave it a strong mandate, but Winston Peters opposed the move, posting on X, "This is utter madness. It's economic self-sabotage. This is an outrageous, short-sighted sugar hit that is just giving away New Zealand's added value to a company from a major EU country. There is now no long-term security for New Zealand's farmers."
And the farmers have spoken, so Winston can have his decision or his opinion, but at the end of the day, farmers own the co-op, and we've made an informed view to divest.
ASB economist Nick Tuffley says the brands Fonterra are selling were never the money spinners they'd hoped for. The consumer business was only about 20% of revenue.
Look, it is a trade-off. I think the challenge is that if it was easy to make that a very profitable business, Fonterra would have found a way to do it by now. And the reality is that perhaps you do need a lot more capital coming in to help lift it up.
Despite some people's misgivings, economists hope we'll all benefit from the billions flushing through the economy.
Farmers will probably save or pay down debt with, perhaps somewhere around give or take half of it. Even then, we still see about $4.5 billion of activity being stimulated by this. So farmers will invest on the farm, they'll spend money on themselves. That will flow money through to other industries.
Fonterra expects the deal to be finalised in the first half of next year, pending regulatory approvals and the separation of the Mainland Group businesses from Fonterra.
There you go. There's the story, Chewy. Winston says, no. It's one of those things that you kind of go, I've had this conversation with people recently, and I'm sorry to bring it back to house sales, but they're the kind of assets that I sort of understand a bit more, having owned houses, is that like a newly married couple that both bring a house into a relationship, do you sell them both and buy a new one and live more comfortably, or do you keep both and stretch yourself and then try and have some assets to sell for your retirement sort of thing? And there's like a make life easier by selling the places and buying again, which feels like taking the cash is doing that, or making life harder for a better payoff down the road. Now, again, I don't know the dairy industry. I'm not saying this would do that, but it just feels a little bit like, taking the easy hit now for some extra cash rather than the harder run for more money. Now, you said at the start that you felt a bit sick because you were agreeing with Winston Peters. Why don't you explain to us why?
He's a terrible, terrible man, Pat. Because Winston's whole thing is being populist and
Winston's
being
whole?
nationalist.
Oh.
Yeah, Winston's wizened, dusty old hole. It's being nationalist and populist. Now, that's not necessarily a good foundation to make a statement on. My gut feeling is that the selling something that New Zealanders have created to an overseas multinational just doesn't sound like a good idea. But I also understand that that is a nationalist position. Ordinarily, I should be all for the decisions of a co-op. Co-ops are a very socialist thing. And look, these guys have made a business decision. Is this more of a reflection that New Zealand has a tendency to put all of our eggs, or in this case butter, in the one basket? That we leverage one thing that we do very, very well as a cornerstone of our economy.
Yeah.
And now we're putting it in the hands of somebody else and putting a brand that we've created. Now, Fonterra, they themselves say, we don't want to concentrate on brands or products anymore. We just want to be a raw ingredient supplier. I don't know if that's a good business decision. It doesn't feel like a good one.
Yeah. Well, again, it's that there's a couple of things, right? The first is I don't know the dairy industry. I don't know the farming industry, so I can't speak to it. And also, who are we to say don't take the money when some of these farmers might be struggling and desperately need the money? One of the farmers on the TV1 story, which I watched, said something like they're basically just going to put that money aside for when times are tough. You know, if you've got a drought or something like that, that's what they're sort of using it for. And I guess the flip side to this whole conversation is who are we to say to them, this is what's best for you, when they might really just need the sugar hit now. Maybe they're halfway through their marathon and they really need that sugary hit right now to get them to the end. I don't know.
Tangent, but I did laugh when I was taking Elva for a walk the other week, and I came across this. But for those of you on the audio podcast, someone has engraved a rock as a memorial on the side of the path that says, in loving memory of affordable butter. And there is a single flower pinned above it. and that has stayed there for I think almost 2 months now. Nobody's moved it. So
Wow.
yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, speaking of Ilva, I just want to do something to give you all a heads up. Bum, bum. I'm just organising here, Chew. Talk amongst yourselves. Next week, we will be dropping these. So, Nala and Ilva. Is Nala here? Oh, she is there, but I haven't got the camera set up. They will be dropping next week. Now, it might be also a time. It's a long way away. It's a long way away, meaning it's still 5 weeks away. But if any of you guys are thinking about Christmas stuff and stuff in the merch store, NZ Post says you can post pretty much up till the 18th of December. I will probably want to do a cut-off by about Friday the 5th of December to make sure people get them for Christmas. And I was thinking, if you are someone who may like to order an oversized piece of merch, then I'll probably cut those off by the end of November. Just because when we have to order in special presses, special fits, I want to give us an extra week. Because the worst thing that would happen is that you made an order for Christmas and it didn't make it. So these next week will be going up on the shop. We've got them in 3 colours. So can I do this? I just don't really know what the next picture is. What if it's a terrible? What if I'm a terrible human being and some horrific picture comes up? Let me just check, because I'm just basically in my downloads, and it could be anything. Well, it couldn't be anything. Oh God, Plunkett just jumped up, so it's almost anything. Those ones are going to be in these colours here. That's the rust, and that's called black marl. It's not black. It's sort of a slightly off black, and then there's the grey. So that's what they're going to be. And we'll do hoodies as well, but I think coming into summer, the tees are going to be what people most enjoy. And of course, we can't now not mention as well the pins and stuff, which are all in, and people are buying them tonight. I've seen that. Thanks, team. The other thing is I've heard from our manufacturer in Asia that their expectations, and I would hold this with more than just a grain of salt, is coffee cups between the 25th of November and 30th of November. So what that means is we're likely to do some bundles, but we'll probably only do the bundles in the first week of December, and then not after that for Christmas guarantees. Yeah. If people are interested, and also those enamels by the end of next week. We should have the Nicky No Boats one coming there as well. Anywho, let's do some of these chats and then let's go home. I am home. Peter says, why don't they spend it on cleaning up our rivers? Yeah. Yep. Arvid says, missed out on saying utter madness. Matthew, thank you for the generous super chat there. It feels like a significant strategic oversight to divest from consumer brands, as it would severely limit our ability to diversify into artificial food markets if they become mainstream. So let me ask this question, Chewy, and you're more well informed in this. They've divested or are going to divest from their consumer brands. That means none of the products in our supermarkets will be Fonterra products anymore. They may have the Fonterra, the milk solids, but they won't be Fonterra products anymore.
I assume they'll slap a Lactalis logo on there somewhere, and they're going to use that brand in overseas markets as well. So again, it's a large multinational corporation owning a whole bunch of brands. Like, what's defining them?
Yeah.
You know, do they see a value in the brand that has an association with Clean Green New Zealand? And they see more value in that, and the milk is secondary because it gets mixed up into a giant bucket because it's just milk, right? Yeah. It seems short-sighted.
What about the production of? So now they've got Mainland, right, owned by the French, and they've got milk solids from New Zealand, who goes and puts them together? Do they stay at the factories here in New Zealand, or could they then be producing them in France? Because if they're going to produce them in New Zealand, then those production companies would see an uptick. Because if they're going to take Mainland into France and that kind of stuff, so how does that work?
So that's the thing, Pat. They're saying that they just want to focus on their core business of being a raw materials supplier. So we're just sending them raw milk or milk powder.
Milk solids.
Because that's easy to ship. Like, look, when I came down to Dunedin, we had a Mainland cheese factory in South Dunedin. It's not there anymore. They closed it all down. It's not here. It's the value of the brand means nothing. The name of the brand doesn't mean that cheese is made in the Mainland anymore. It's all just nostalgia feels. It's all just marketable value in a brand and what that brand means. And Lactalis thinks that the brand is worth less than the raw materials. That's why they've only agreed to keep the brands for X amount of years and use the milk for X amount of years longer.
So the factories that currently make the Mainland cheese and all the other brands, the factories are Fonterra factories, yeah?
I believe so.
So
not 100% sure.
This is the question then.
Man back on.
Yeah? You reckon he'll
We'll
still
do a
come back and
pre-record
chat with us?
when he's awake, so we don't have to drag him into the dark times.
All right. Well, maybe we'll look at that for next week. All right, team. That's us for tonight. Short week, obviously. 3-day week. Well, we spoke to HR with a very heavy voice and said it's a public holiday on Monday and it's for the workers. So you guys can go away. We're not going to work. They tried to make us work, but we said hell's to the no. Not going to happen. Kids are in tomorrow night. Some announcements coming up in the next week or so about things like the Leftist Collective, meeting happening this weekend around the Leftist Collective. I know lots of you have asked about that for several months this year, and as you know, it's just purely come down to me and my time, but we're putting together a bit of a team to bring that back, we're hoping. So hopefully next week we'll be able to have a bit of an announcement for you around that. Other than that, thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing. A quick little addendum to you generous people. Thank you very much for being a part of this and doing our Christmas donations. But I noticed a few people tonight have come in to do a donation, which is lovely. Thank you so much. There's a donate button up the top there. I will attribute all of those to the Christmas party. Right, I'll make sure they will, because I think probably some people got confused. But you can see up the top, there's a BHN Christmas donate. Boom. So that's the Christmas one. And everything that comes in on that one goes to the Christmas party. The donate one is a general donations for anything, but for tonight, anything that's come in on that donate, I will also attribute to the Christmas party, because I suspect some people just got confused. And also, it's in the new merch available thing there as well if you want to be involved. A few orders come in tonight for the enamels. I will get some I got some on the courier yesterday, but I haven't had time to send out the ticket numbers. So some people may have already received them today, even though I sent them yesterday. If not, probably tonight I'll send those ticket numbers out. And then you will be able to know that you guys have your stuff on the way. And for people who are still expecting T-shirts and stuff, we're going to do some presses this weekend. And so they'll be on Monday morning's courier. I think that's all, Chewy. Is there anything else we've got to get to?
No, I think that covers everything.
All right, team. Very last thing of the night, of course. Just letting BHN listeners know that in the Lower Hutt and Wellington, there are concerns around Petone to Granada and Cross Valley Link being fast-tracked through FTAA and NZTA will not need to do a public consultation. So Mr. Alex just wants you guys to know that there are some concerns in that area. Thank you, Mr. Alex. Appreciate the very generous super chat and for keeping us up. You're kind of our unofficial Hutt Valley traffic.
Hutt Watch.
Hutt Watch. There you go. Hutt Watch with Alex. Okay, team. I think we just clicked over. Oh gosh, we've actually well clicked over the time, Chewy. I apologise for. Don't know why tonight.
I remember when you said, "Hey, look, maybe we'll just do a lazy 30-minute show tonight."
Because I'm tired. I'm so tired. All right, Whānau. Thank you so much for being a part of us. We love you to bits, and we will catch you Monday, and the kids will catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Kia ora, Pat.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together, for better push aside
Any words of wisdom tonight, Chewy? Anything you want the whānau to know about?
No, I'm free of knowledge. My brain is perfectly smooth and everything is slid right off.
We'll catch you Monday night from 9 p.m. whānau for the next edition, with us at least, of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.